Hey, true believers, Chris Mack coming at you too, Batman issue 344. And before we dive into this, I got to give a shout out to Randy. He's one of our members of the community here that inspired me to kind of go through a good majority of the original origins of Poison Ivy, and I have yet to be disappointed. Each one, it feels like time periods or like timepieces for me, because her first one way back in the late 60s, 70s, and now we're kind of getting into the 80s, and they all, for some reason, canonically, yeah, I haven't had enough coffee. Feel free to make fun of me down in the comments. But essentially, it feels like there's been no time passed in terms of storytelling and how Ivy has progressed in Gotham. Now, this one was February 1982. This is called Monster My Sweet. This is Gary Conway writer, Gene Colan and Klaus Jensen doing the art, Ben Oda doing the lettering, Adriana Roy doing the colors, and Dick Giordano doing the editing. All-star cast inside the book. But the cover, let's talk about the cover for a second. Awesome cover. It explains a good chunk of what's going on in this book. But check this little signature out. Joe frickin' Kubert. Now that's awesome. We got the Kubert brothers' dads doing this cover. Now that, to me, I was just like, yeah, that's awesome. So just to kind of see an early cover by Joe Kubert here was just freaking spot on. Now, what I like about this book is we are starting to feel a powder keg buildup in Gotham politically. I know, not trying to make any type of parallels. Moving on. It says the place, the Batcave, under the Wayne building in Midtown Gotham. The time, near dark. 24 hours before Election Day, 1981. And so, Alfred says, is it true? Does Councilman Reeves know your secret identity? If he does, Alfred, it's nothing short of catastrophe. So even Bruce himself doesn't know. And he's been running himself ragged. He actually falls asleep in the elevator to the penthouse. So you can just see how run down the Batman is. And Alfred says, with all this even going on, you are under considerable stress. Your health is in jeopardy. And I love the way that Conway here segues. Because he goes, and not just my health, old friend. Poison Ivy is threatening to wipe out the Wayne Foundation. And today is the day of reckoning. I wish I could talk about it with you. But a post-hypnotic spell prevents me from saying a word. Right now, I feel like the loneliest man in the world. In his mind's eye, he imagines her gloating, her lips curved in that evil yet somehow charming grin. Which, here, leads us into Ivy trying to intimidate Big Jack Johnson. Yeah, say that 3 times fast. Now, remember that name because it kind of becomes important later in the book. And real quick, Gary Conway, if that name sounds familiar to you, he is the one that wrote Amazing Spider-Man 121, which is the night that Gwen Stacy died. So make sure to check out that review that we did. You can kind of see how he handles both Spider-Man and the Dark Knight respectfully. Now, Ivy's basically saying that she's going to be the one that's going to be running Gotham. She's going to have all the money. And he's like, lady, all this humidity has rotted your brain. Why should I answer to you? Because money talks in this world, Big Jack. And by noon today, Poison Ivy will speak with a very loud voice indeed. And he's like, well, I'm leaving, lady. Be thankful that my mother didn't teach me to disrespect women. And she goes, you've made a big mistake. And I just love how she can kind of go from that calm look in her eyes to that psychotic, I'm going to rip your face out type thing, which explains why her and Harley are such good buddies, because they can both seem sweet and docile for a moment, and then the next thing you know, your entrails are inside out and you're wrapped up in a plant. And that's no difference here. She's trying to do what she can to show that she is going to be the one that runs Gotham. Now, before we get any further into that, we segue into Councilman Reeves. And nobody really knows how to take it. They're grilling him. He's like, come to my press conference later tonight. You'll understand everything. And while all this is going on, you can see how Reeves is also using all this gloating to try to muscle Gordon. He goes, you think I'm making political hay out of the Batman's reputation? Those are your words, Councilman, not mine. But if you want my opinion, I think your campaign's a disgrace. Ah, but you're assuming I didn't mean what I said. The Batman is indeed a menace to Gotham, Commissioner. And those photos will be established, without a doubt. We'll see. There's something else we have to discuss, Gordon. You. My opponent, Hamilton, is hitting you almost as hard as I'm hitting the Batman. Support me in this election and I'll guarantee your job for as long as I'm mayor. And this is why I've always loved Gordon. Councilman, stick it in your ear. Great stuff. And then the dude's just left flabbergasted. And that's just how James Gordon is. And I love it. He does not miss a beat. He's just like, whatever, dude, I don't care. Which shows us the return here of Vicky Vale. And she's kind of a wild card in this issue because we have no idea what her intentions are. We see her taking photos. She actually has a reunion with Bruce. And you're just thinking, what do they intend to do with her? Which I have not read. The next issue after this is Detective Comics 511. I'm going to have to pick it up because even I don't know. And I'm like, I want to know more. Now, here's the most uncomfortable part of the book where all the Wayne Foundation members have to sit and they have to give over all the money to Ivy. And again, I've said this thousands and thousands of times, and I'm going to say it again. Anytime a new reader, or even like say a collector picks up a new issue or whatever, their first issue, they should at least kind of know what's been going on as of late. And right here, Conway does a great job of saying, there's nothing we can do about it. Ivy obtained our signatures by hypnosis, but none of us can accuse her without the words choking in our throats. And so Ivy, again, just smug as can be. We've been all over this, Jansen. Do I get the money or don't I? And Bruce tries to at least plead to her humanity. Ivy, I appeal to you, don't do this. The Wayne Foundation spends millions on charity. You're breaking my heart, Bruce. Leave my check on the table and get out. But I love this. These little ominous words where he goes, you'll never enjoy the money, Ivy. Even you have a conscience. So even though it seems she doesn't, Bruce Wayne makes sure that she doesn't. And the way that he torments her through this book, it's hilarious. Like, you can't help but laugh. It's serious, but at the same time, it drives her to the point of insanity. And she's like, leave me alone. Leave me alone. And he makes sure that she can't enjoy that money. Now, there's also another thing here that I thought was neat, and I've never seen in another Batman book, is the conversion of a Rolls Royce to the Batmobile. So this dude's like, say what? Who that dude in that big old Rolls think he is? Passing my sassy Silver Savile. Gonna teach him a lesson. And of course, Bruce is lost in thought at the moment with everything going on. Hey, sucker, eat my dust. It'll give me a chance to... And he goes, ugh. Anyway, it'll give me a chance to test out a new gadget I've developed. He goes, of all that this character wants to race me, he's about to receive the shock of his life. Huh? That don't sound like no Rolls-Royce engine. So dark in this tunnel. Can't see. But something tells me I've been... And all of a sudden you see... Enter the Rolls-Royce. Exit the Batmobile. And the dude's like, where'd he come from? Shoot, it's getting so hard, ain't nobody's safe on the road no more. Next time I'm taking the bus. So it was kind of a nice little comic relief and a cool little way to show how all the different ways that Batman is able to switch to the Dark Knight in a moment's notice. Now check this out. As we finally get into the conclusion of the book, I'm not going to give away what Reeves reveals who the Batman is because I don't want to give the book away. But it's interesting. And like I said, pay attention to the beginning of the book and you might get a hint. But listen to this. Again, I've said this, that a lot of modern writers don't know how to set the scene, like painting the scene with words. Listen to this. Starlight. city light, the great pall of urban smog. They mix to form a sky the color of steel, and on a rooftop opposite Poison Ivy's greenhouse, a dark figure stands poised against the metal sky. Above him, a battering slices the sooty air, spinning in an ever widening circle. He draws a breath, smiles. He's spent a lifetime training for a moment like this. Under a gunmetal sky, he springs. He always did know how to make an entrance. Look at that. That is how you set up the final confrontation. And he just comes smashing through Batman style through the glass. A lot of people just don't know how to build up that suspension through that third-party narration or third-person narration. And you feel it. You feel the palpable moment before he crashes into that window, which leads us into the confrontation with the quote-unquote, for you gamers, the final boss. And this thing, I just love this like pulp look. Check out the background. It has that very pulp comic feel to it. Beautiful work here by the art team. And you just kind of, you find out that Ivy has done something absolutely god-awful, like crimes against humanity awful. But in the end, through action and eventual compassion, things are finally settled with Poison Ivy, with a little support from our favorite boy Wonder, where if you remember from the last issue, him and Bruce had been separated. Robin kind of needed to find his way, and it was an excellent little follow-up story in the last issue. But to see him return in this style, absolutely phenomenal. Everything that you want in a comic book from action, great storytelling, both through the narrative and visual storytelling, is going to be in this book. And if you're a fan of the femme fatale Poison Ivy, this comic book is right up your alley. Highly recommend it, guys. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little Ivy bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below, or social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So all that said, hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.